Are you you trust Coach Rule?
Yes, I think that's fair.
All right. 1 to 10 level of surprise that on this that's the second or third time
hmm
that he's referenced the offensive line.
not a big level of
All
surprise.
right, quick. Next, ready?
Yeah,
Flush, wash, rinse, repeat.
flush it.
Does it say anything about the D line in comparison for you?
It does not.
Okay.
I think we need to be able to separate those things.
Okay. Is it because you want to?
Probably.
Okay. I asked the question. I just like to know how people
I'm
think.
high on both sides of the line. I've been
Because
high.
you because I so why I ask is because that's your the D line was like your those are your like that's
Those are my
your
guys.
those are your group that's your
Yeah,
group.
really high on Van Poppel. Really high on Keona Davis. Obviously, I've been high on Cam Lenhart. I know his year last year wasn't what we wanted it to be, but if we want to include the Jacks kind of in that spot, I really like Shavers and McGahee a lot. I know you think Shavers is going to play inside a little bit as well at the linebacker spot, so
So
I don't really know what to do with him.
so it's interesting, and I don't want to read too much into the clinic talk,
hmm
but of course I either write down or remember everything. And Coach Butler talked about some keys, right? He's like, I think it's important as this is the whole simple versus easy. So just hear me out
hmm
because you'll be amazed at how many people actually coach and don't just say, well, this guy's a good shooter. He should get the most shots.
Yeah,
It often doesn't go like
yeah.
that.
Well, it's like, well,
So
yeah,
he said, always remember to play to your guy's strengths. If a guy's a good blitzer, blitz him. If a guy's not a good blitzer, don't blitz him. And he had a couple of other examples like that. So he used Shavers as an example
hmm
of a guy that is a good, gifted, natural pass rusher.
hmm
So I have to be very cognizant not to go all,
like galaxy brain on me.
yeah, does that mean you don't want him to do this, or are we going to accentuate this, or are we going to
Yeah,
play to his strengths? Because the downside to knowing a guy's case file is you typically just gravitate towards that,
yeah.
right? So I don't want to see him just rush the passer. Sometimes he's got to be in coverage.
hmm
Sometimes, so I say all that to say whether a guy plays inside or outside or whatever, as long as you're playing to his strengths,
Yeah,
I probably
not gonna split hairs.
not going to split hairs over it.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of guys.
You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys in that area, no matter what positionally we call them, that I'm excited about. Haven't even brought up Inwaneri. Haven't I did bring up McGahee. There's a lot of guys in that group I'm excited about. Um, I think Elijah Judy has a chance to have a really good year on the inside as well. But I've also been kind of, I don't want to say I was the earliest adopter, but I was certainly on the front edge of telling people, hey, Donnie's really good at this. The offensive line's going to be fine,
Yeah.
right? Through the injuries, through some turmoil over who was playing, who wasn't going to play, whatever, through the Micah Mazuka stuff, all of it. I was like, hey, he's sort of always just figured it out. Throw the 1 year with Frost and Whipple away. Donnie's been really good at this.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of who was available, regardless of positional needs, whatever, he's figured it out, and we haven't really noticed a drop off. So I'm sort of on this, I'm on both sides of this.
Mine went in phases.
Sure.
I was cool with Donnie because I think Coach Rule and Coach Satterfield both expressed that they set in with the intent to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
Then they just couldn't.
Yeah,
Right. So that was one.
because he just kept coming to work.
That was one.
100%.
1A was the players wanted him back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, only reason I put that at A is because sometimes the players don't know
Don't know what's best
best.
for him. Yeah. I'm very hesitant on that reasoning
Um,
in general.
but I do I do know if for whatever the reason I trusted it.
I
Right.
will say offensive linemen are also different than a lot of other
So I didn't
players.
want to get into the weeds, but I agree with you.
Like they're
I agree with you.
mentality wise, they're
You don't
different.
have to acquiesce or cater to them, but you do let them bend your ear more than almost any other position group that's not a
Because
quarterback.
they're typically not divas
And they know more about their craft than almost
than most
90%
of,
of the people they're dealing with.
including other coaches.
So
Yeah.
I let O-line meant you bend my ear.
A little more leeway.
Yep,
Yeah.
bend my ear. But the other thing is, and we forgot because we weren't winning the way that we wanted to. My man was just replacing three starters, and we weren't talking about poor O-line play.
Mm-hmm.
It just got buried in the fact that they were tricking games off.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I really came
So I
around.
was like, "Oh, I'm good.
That's where I really came around.
I'm good."
One was Rhule talking about them not being able to get rid of him. Two was Bryce Benhart's leap for me. I thought that was enormous because we were ready to drive Benhart to the airport. Three was they were missing three starters at any given point during Rhule's first year, and we didn't notice a drop off.
Mm.
That's where I was like, hey, if Nebraska at any other point over the last decade had been missing three starters on the offensive line, the sky would have been falling. We didn't even talk about it. That to me speaks volumes about the job that Donovan has done. But so it is. I do understand it can be tricky to navigate. Hey, is the offensive line playing well? Is the defensive line playing poorly? I understand that can be difficult to weigh. I like both groups independently, so I'm not going to take the offensive line playing well as an indictment of the defensive line. So yeah, part of it is just because I like them.
Interesting.
Like it's my own personal opinion, but that's fine.
No, I just like to know because sometimes,
it's a
if
fair question.
if I watch DBs eat up wide receivers in one-on-one, I have to assess
The other side of the ball.
the wide receivers.
Yeah, for sure. And vice versa, right? We like this wide receivers group a lot. A lot of us do. Most of us don't really know.
Can I just say this?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get painted with that brush. I don't know enough about the wide receiver group.
Fair. That's why I tried to.
I'm not.
I walked it back a little.
I'm not in that camp. I'm not in any camp. I'm in a
Wait and see.
I don't know.
Totally fair.
I got a couple of guys that I think I could like, but playing wide receiver in this offense is not easy, and it takes time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be super patient.
I think a lot of people are high on the wide receivers, and a lot of people, or most people, I think, don't know about the defensive backs just because there's a lot of bodies and a lot of unknowns, right?
Mm.
And some turnover with guys that started a lot of games over the last few years. But if you sit there and go, hey, the wide receivers are eating up the defensive backs, that probably lends you to think, oh, the wide receivers are what we thought they were. The defensive backs are not coming along the way we want them to. That also may not be true. Like, we just don't know. The other part of it is, like, the whole Dylan of the equation too, right? If Dylan is his ball placement's on point, you can play great defense. It doesn't really matter.
Agreed.
If Dylan's
been on the receiving end of that.
Yeah, it can just be if the quarterback and wide receiver have it right, the dirty little secret is the defensive back doesn't have a lot of options.
Yeah.
Right? And if the offensive line, like the same thing can be with the offensive line, defensive line. If Dylan's making quick decisions, seeing the field well, getting the ball out quickly, navigating the pocket well because he's in a little bit better shape, like all of those things can make, not getting home on the defensive line, that's a little rough. Or he makes the offensive line look really good, right? So Dylan sort of has a lot of say in the way everybody else looks, which is why I think Schaaf landed on the answer that he did with ranking Dylan as 1, because his impact filters down to so many other things, right? I mean, Terrence brought up in the chat, you're on the field more, you're more consistent on offense, you're converting third downs. All of a sudden, your defense looks way better, right? Because they aren't on the field as long. You're keeping the other defense tired. You're keeping the other offense out of rhythm. Like, there's a lot of things that kind of flow together in if Dylan's just playing at a level we think he's capable of.
Yeah. Would you? I think so far we've backburnered a little bit special teams.
Sure. Yeah.
Just because we don't know, but I also think
I don't know if not enough about it. Honestly.
We just assume it's going to have to just by default naturally be better.
Hard to be worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally cost them games last year.
Yeah.
So hard to be worse. Just get it. But part of it for me, just being totally honest, is part of it's just specialists, which I don't know what to do with, right? I don't know what to do with, is the kicker going to make kicks? Is the snapper going to make snaps? Is the holder going to hold it, right? Like, I don't know what to do with that except for you have to go out and see it. So I don't know how much speculating there is to do there. The other part is all the other schematic things about special teams. I don't know enough about
Mm.
to have any real takes on what that should look like. But I also don't think schematically that they were necessarily that bad under Foley.
I agree.
A lot of it was
And
execution.
I help coach it. So I'm passionate about special
Mhm.
teams. Um and we used a lot of what they did.
Yeah.
Like a lot. I mean Jernigan's our guy. I mean, he's our special teams coordinator. And they spent a lot of time together. I mean, poor Eckler. I think Journey had him pinned up in the way. No, hey,
No, I know.
50
Yeah.
minutes of one-on-one.
Yeah, you told me he kind of
I had to
cornered him.
yeah, I'm like,
Like, this is awkward.
this is awkward. But he drove.
He's like, I'm going to walk away. I'll
Yeah,
find you when you're done.
you know when I don't want to loiter, it's you're doing too much.
Yeah, yeah.
So I, I will be curious. I did watch punt returns. Um, it was windy, it was cold. They went outside, a lot of distractions.
Mhm.
Like I like that. You only have 4 or 5 guys back there working reps. I like that.
Mhm.
So I think there's good attention to detail there.
Yeah.
Um, but the whole offense versus the defense thing, and I don't mean a lot of times guys and gals will try to, well, you don't talk about this person and you don't talk about that person. Sometimes I forget.
Mhm.
Like that's fair. Like sometimes I just forget to mention. But I will say typically when I don't mention, that's really what you need.
It's all you need to know.
Was there anything that caught you off guard with Coach Rhule talking about offensive line? He did say he's probably forgetting some guys.
He didn't mention Spindler or Pritchett.
Yeah. Surprise, or you think it's intentional? I don't want to
Um,
read too much into it. I'm asking you, did you have any takeaways?
Not really.
Yeah.
So my takeaway was if the
Pritchett is a mammoth of a man.
enormous human being.
Foreman said something funny. He said, "Man, that's the kind of cat that'll look the exact same when he's 40." I didn't get it at first. I saw, I thought it was funny.
The way I took it, and maybe I'm reading too much into it the other way, is for this offensive line to be good, those guys are going to have to be pretty good.
Mm.
Like that's just my assumption. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not giving Donovan enough credit for some of the development he's done. And they've got guys in the room already that are as good.
Yeah, I just pitted against because he was asked specifically about. I mean, he got and to Hot Danger's point, he got the Spindler question specifically the other day.
Yes, the guy he really hasn't mentioned is Pritchett.
So I just and he's usually but with O line like
And
you could
Donovan
forget.
did talk about Spindler.
There's another guy I wanted to talk about the other day, but until they do, like I probably won't. But they there's some guys that I think have a chance to compete.
There's a bunch of guys I think
that I'm actually excited because I think they'll have options.
I do too.
And unlike baseball, when we talked about options versus answers and questions for Coach Bolt in the lineup,
You want options.
I think this is actually a good problem.
Listen, this is why one of the reasons I'm such a big Donnie fan is he's given himself options really quickly, and his guys aren't even ready yet.
So do you know why I really like him?
Why is that?
He embodies. He's made a lifestyle of the words that I say. I'm not there yet in some capacities where I say I like to coach in such a way where I have options. I don't want to be married to any one particular player.
Yeah. Because what
I just don't.
In most situations with
at typically at the high school level, you're not as afforded as many luxuries.
Sure.
But I'll make them though. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I'll be hard headed.
Yeah.
He likes options because you're going to do it his way.
The Mazuka example last year is terrific.
You're going to do it his way.
Is a terrific example of that. Micah Mazuka
I can appreciate that.
Was one of the 5 most talented linemen on the team last year. He didn't play for long stretches because he, for whatever reason, wasn't doing it the way they wanted it done. Raiola gave himself options to have that. And did anybody listen? I understand they were better with Mazuka in there. It wasn't a huge drop off. Like he gave himself options, and his guys, the guys that he has recruited, are just now getting ready. Right? They're just now getting into their second and third years of being in the program and under his tutelage and through the strength and conditioning and nutrition and stuff. Like those guys are just now getting a chance to have an opportunity to play. That's what's exciting to me about that room. Is that's why when I sit there and we name off these lists and I go, I think there's, if you include Corcoran and Prohaska, which I don't even, because I don't know what to expect from them, but if you include those guys, I'm at 12.
I probably should go back and get that list.
I'm at 12 without a stretch.
I'll wait another week, but I'm low.
That because you said 8 and then plus the 2 is 10, or were you at 7?
I said 7 and plus the 2 is 9.
It's at least 8.
Yeah.
It's at least 8.
Yeah.
I think it's I'm
not even comfortable saying it out loud because it's hard. So I don't think it's gonna be a thing. Like I could easily talk myself out of it.
Yeah.
I could be like, who can play 9 offensive linemen and win?
Oh, I don't think they're going to play 9.
No, I'm just like that's the premise.
Yeah. My premise is how many guys do they have that could play that
They played 9 last year.
Yeah.
But they didn't win enough for us to make it a big deal.
Use that as a example.
Just didn't win enough.
Mine was more, hey, there's 10 guys that they can play that I think you wouldn't notice a huge issue with. More than that's what the rotation would be.
Yeah. Need a little more time.
Which I think is, I mean, I'm not to, be on the Donovan Raiola Homer network over here, but really, really impressed with what they've done in that room.
HD makes it, but that's a decent point.
Which one there?
But I will say, in Frost's defense, he did say that out loud, though.
That he had to play some guys.
That he had to. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should read the statement first. He said under Frost, Bricks would have rushed into playing last year and would have been hampered in his development. Yes,
which is what happened with Ben Hart.
But I do think Frost did say out loud he didn't want to have to play some of these young guys early.
Mm-hmm. And he felt like his hand was forced.
But he kind of did.
So. AJ asked a good question here.
I was going to go back and get that
on special teams.
Yeah.
He says, is special teams more big play opportunities or more consistency?
Definitely the latter.
So I think the next step for Nebraska is more consistency.
Yeah.
Big play opportunities comes after
It can't be a crapshoot on if your special teams is going to cost you or not.
Yeah, it can't be boom or bust.
Yeah.
Right? Because Nebraska was bust last year.
Definitely consistency.
You have to get to the point where it's not costing you games, and then you can talk about
it being an advantage.
Yeah, moving it into the plus category. Just get it to neutral for me.
Snap it and kick it. Snap it, hold it, kick it.
Be able to get inside a 40-yard field goal and feel like you can kick that ball.
Don't panic and return a ball from the 2-yard line that roll. Just take a knee.
Yeah.
Right? Like just get it at the 25.
Just get me to neutral.
Yeah.
Don't
bring a ball out that's 7 yards deep.
Get me to even ground, and we'll see where we're at there. Yeah, I agree. The next step is big play opportunities, but gotta get to consistency first. I think that's a key right there. Anything else that Rhule said that caught your ear? I know we didn't get to much of it yesterday with everything that went on.
I thought the long clip, Shane, how many minutes is this isn't my team?
2:44.
Do we want to listen to a 2-minute and 44-second clip?
I do. Yeah, we don't have any guests the rest of the hour, so I would like to go get it.
Shane, play the clip.
Well, it's not my program anymore. That's the great news. For the first year, it's kind of my program as I'm trying to teach it. I mean, I think people, as they're out there at practice, they see a much different version of me, much more serene me maybe, because we have so many elite people in so many areas running the practices, right? Like I was telling Eck out there today, like I'm a little bored sometimes because, I'm not going to go coach the O-line over Donnie. I'm not going to run the offense over Dana. I'm not going to tell the receivers how to do something because DeKeel's so good. I'm not going to go to the special. Eckler's running the special teams at a high level defense. So we have so many good people. So I think it's our program now, which is really a cool thing, especially with the players. I mean, the players are doing such a good job of coaching each other. I think when a new player comes in, I think you just have to. I think the first thing is, just kind of learning the culture. I mean, we talk about our process. We say first you have to learn it, then you start to live it, and then eventually you defend it, right? Where, instead of coming in having a bunch of, sometimes we go into something new, we have a bunch of suggestions. Just come in and learn it, learn how we do everything, right? And then after you've done that, you start to live it out. Then, hey, what about this? What about that? And I'll give a real credit to like Rocco, Dane. Some of these guys have come from really successful careers, really successful programs, and Rocco, Rocco just played for a national championship, coming from a great program, and he hasn't come in and said, well, we should do this, and he's come in and just kind of adapted. If he has a question, I'll say, "Hey, coach, you want me to do this? Can you tell me why you want me to do this?" Which I love. And then when he does have, hey, what about this? It's great. It gives great feedback. So I think the best thing you can do when you come in somewhere new is just learn. I tell our young coaches a story. Like when I went to the Giants as an assistant coach, and you might not believe this, but I'm a very opinionated person. I have a lot of ideas. I first went to the Giants. I was like, and I'd worked with, some of the people there before. I was like, you know what? I'm going to not say a word for the first 6 months. I mean, they could be sitting in a meeting and they could be talking about something that I knew the answer to 100 times. And I was just going to sit there and keep my mouth shut. And then after about 6 months, I was like, okay, now for the next 2 months, or whatever it was, I'm going to only speak when spoken to and answer questions if I know. And I think it's really important so that you don't come in and be someone that when you talk, everyone's annoyed with. And then after I had kind of earned my stripes, then if I had something to say, I said it. And I've liked that approach from all the staff coming in. I've liked that approach from all the players coming in. They've all done a really nice job of just, hey, how do we do this? How do we do that? And then, they add a lot of value now.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So much in there where he's not just talking. He's certainly not talking to us.
No.
He's talking to his players and he's talking to his staff.
Coaches, yeah.
Right? And he kind of intimated this was it January or February? It was like, you know what? We just need to be quiet. We just need to shut up and go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Just go to work. Stop talking. And I just felt like he's not quite handing off the baton, but he's in like the second leg of the relay.
Yeah.
Where it's like we're getting to the point where you don't handle a Hardly Gilmore situation the way they did without it quickly not being within what everybody else deems okay.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, a player may have gotten away with some of that stuff and could potentially have been a starter.
Yeah. Sure.
Hypothetically. Right? Like,
yeah.
You're to the point now where that's not a thing. So when I ask you, do you think the handing off of the baton is too soon? As you listen to it in its entirety, and I go back and listen to it, maybe it's not handing off the baton so much as he's saying we're learning how to do the relay.
Yeah, so I think the beginning of that statement is probably a little overstated, where he says it's not my program anymore. Like that part is probably a little overstated.
Well, it's not my program anymore. That's the great news.
I think it's less hands-on. He kind of went to describe, not being in certain position groups and not being as hands-on.
The player empowerment of
yeah.
When a new guy comes in and he doesn't know, like he's not resetting the culture.
Yeah.
I always would give the example,
especially when he's coming from a good place.
I would always give the example of Shane letting eggs settle before you add ingredients or when you add ingredients to a very neutral, a very neutral or bland tasting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Be careful about when you want it to take over.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you got to let the eggs settle. If you don't, or you can have too much green pepper, or it's too oniony, or
yeah,
you
be careful with garlic.
That'll take over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think when you're evaluating when you let players have some say-so and when other players are comfortable having other players have say-so, it's critical. It is absolutely critical.
I do wonder
if you want to continue to establish your culture.
I do wonder too if we're saying, he's talking not to us but to his players and coaches. Like, do you think the Rocco Spindler story is meant to land on someone else's ears too?
Which part?
Hey, he came from a really good place and he's not trying to reset the culture. He's coming into ours. Because there's some coaches and some other players that came from really good places. Mike Eckler came from Tennessee. That's a really good job.
I mean, maybe. It would be hard to think when you have an answer like that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have some particular things that are on your mind. So I don't know.
And I just thought Eckler, he's the first guy I thought of that came from a really good program. Obviously, you had, like, Terry Braden's coming from Kansas City. Like, that's obviously different, but really, great program.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then you have players like, Elijah Pritchett coming from Alabama. You got a lot of guys coming from other schools that
Johnny the Pig said, could any of these be seen as Rhule creating a buffer zone for some of these concepts and coaches that maybe he's still evaluating?
that's not how I took it.
Well, it's not my program anymore.
But I agree.
So what do you mean by buffer zone?
But I
guess
could
is-
see it as common language builds in accountability. So
yeah.
at some point, these are the things that I adhere to. I've been saying them out loud in terms of modeling what I want. Where do you fall on this spectrum?
So
I could see that. That might be a little too.
So my initial thought when he says buffer zone, I think of distancing himself from decisions so he doesn't have to take accountability.
Or buying himself time till he makes the decision.
Maybe. That's fair. So I didn't take it that way initially. That's certainly an option. I do think the common language can create a buffer between him and everyday decisions because he doesn't have to make every minute decision.
Yeah.
Right? If he knows, hey, my job is to set the culture and to put people in a position to be successful, then I don't have to go and make every single decision along the way. I can trust a DeKill Shorts or a Dana Holgerson or a Phil Snow or a Philip Simpson or whoever to make decisions within their own purview because we have a common language. They understand my expectations. So I no longer have to be as hands-on, as micromanagey over those situations because I like where it's set. Yeah. I can go focus on recruiting and other things to build up the program in other ways.
I thought that was I wanted to go back and get that because I think that's going to kind of set the pulse. And I don't try to make a habit of parsing through everything, but that was so generally topical.
Yeah, and he stayed on it.
I think it's very, very important for this team going forward.
And I think it's fair, a few weeks.
I think it's very important.
A few weeks ago, he told us he's very careful about what he says. So if he stays on something for 3 minutes, he probably there's probably something there, right? It would at some point we have to believe what he tells us, and if he tells us he says things intentionally and in a specific way for a specific reason, and he stays on something for 3 minutes, we should probably pay attention to that thing.
I would concur.